Craig Smith, CEO of Swiss America Trading. He's in San Diego. Craig, good morning.
Good morning, Ted.
Is this the economic terrorism you've been warning about?
Yeah, you know, we've been talking about it since November 7th of 2001. We've always believed, Ted, that there was an economic component to this, and now we're seeing it being played out as we saw the comments from Secretary Ridge last night.
What about your theories, and I found this interesting in a piece that you had sent me, on the dollar versus the dinar in bin Laden's efforts to disrupt the American economy?
Yeah, bin Laden is totally convinced, Ted, that the Asian currency crisis in 1997 was a direct result of America's involvement. Hundreds of millions of Muslims were affected by that. He believes he has to extract his pound of flesh. He wants to do it by trying to compete with the gold dinar. He saw the euro dollar compete with the dollar. He believes the gold dinar can compete with the dollar. I'm not sure he's correct, but he's sure going to give it the old college try.
And how will he do that?
He's calling on 1.5 billion Muslims worldwide to abandon the U.S. dollar and go completely to the gold dinar, which is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. One of the pillars of Islam is the zakat, or the money. Back 700 A.D., that's what they used, was the gold dinar. So he believes that it's a call from Allah to do it. The plus impact that it will have in his mind is it will hurt the U.S. dollar. We obviously see he's trying to hurt the U.S. economy by these terror threats poised at key targets in our economic system. He will fail, Ted, but he's sure going to try and wreak some havoc, and that's what we've been warning people about, is just be prepared about it.
You indicate that you think the terrorists may be toying with us.
I think they could be. I mean, think about the people that went to work at Citigroup today, or at the Exchange, or went to work at the World Bank. You got to believe in the back of your mind that maybe, just maybe, something is up. At the same token, there might be testing systems to see what will and what will not work in the event of an emergency. I clearly am convinced, Ted, that it has an economic component to it. He attacked World Trade Center in '93, World Trade Center in 2001. The market was closed for 6 days when that happened. It's clear to me and to many other people that now this has a clear-cut financial component, and we at least ought to investigate it.
At this point, and from what we understand, some of these plans were actually pre-9/11. At this point, how many times do they actually have to do anything real? I mean, they bombed the World Trade Center in '93, take down 2 buildings, and crash a plane into the Pentagon in 2001. They don't have to do anything again for a very long time to continue that mentality and paralyze us, do they?
Boy, you're absolutely right, Ted. I mean, think about the value, and I hate to refer to it in those terms, that they have off of September 11th. It's paying dividends today, with people in the back of their mind thinking, what happens when I go to work today? That's why we've prepared what we call a counterterrorism DVD that we're trying to explain to the American people. We need to go on with life, but we should have a communications plan in place. We should talk to our family members about this. Homeland Security, FEMA, Red Cross, are all urging people to at least talk about this and have a plan, because you're right, terrorism is going to be with us for some time, and you don't have to attack a building to get value out of terror, and that's what's so terrible about it. And I got good news for your viewers. We are going to beat these guys. They cannot win this battle, Ted, but it could cause disruptions in the interim.
A viewer wrote in here, which I think is interesting. I spoke to a friend who grew up in Israel, and she says this is not done in Israel, this being all this publicity. She said they just take care of business without all the publicity. The Tel Aviv Stock Exchange goes on, they protect it, but there's not all this publicity. Are we making too much of this?
We may be. I mean, Israel has had to learn how to live with terrorism on a daily basis. We've never had to deal with this, Ted, so this is all new ground that we're forging. I really commend Secretary Ridge in coming out with this statement. It's been very apparent to many of us that follow this stuff overseas that clearly Osama bin Laden wants to hurt America financially. He talked about it on Al Jazeera's website after the attacks on September 11th, talking about our budget deficits, our trade deficits, and how America is vulnerable right now. And so, are we making too big deal about it? I'm not sure. We may be, but I got to tell you something. I think Secretary Ridge did the right thing in warning people, let's increase security, let's keep people safe. Isn't it better to be safe than sorry?
Does this give either of the candidates more fodder for campaign purposes?
Great question, and I don't know. There's been some talk that this was very clearly timed, if you will, that happened right after the DNC. I hope that's wrong. I think President Bush is doing a tremendous job in keeping us safe. I think Secretary Ridge is doing the same. I think he owes it to these people going to these places of work that if they have credible information like they have, even down to how many guards are on work at a particular time in the coffee shops that they have their breaks at, he has to warn people.
Greg Smith, Swiss America Trading CEO. Thank you in San Diego.
Good to be with you.
Now the